I want to read you a very quick LRH quote. This is from a policy letter called Instruction and Examination, Raising the Standard of, because we're talking about standard tech. And he says, this is 24 September 1964, while he was delivering the briefing course. He says, the basic reason students remain long on courses stems from inept criticism by instructors regarding what is required. Now, in view of the fact that it takes the ASHO Day Org now approximately a year and a half to get somebody through the metering course, on a good day, 8 months to get through meter drill 22 and 25. I have a friend who was 6 years on the Class 6 internship, although he might have deserved it. Just kidding. So, the basic reason students remain long on courses stems from inept criticism by instructors regarding what is required. What's required at the level of communication course? What's required then at the level of HQS course? Then what's required at the level of Method 1 co-audit? Then what's required? They're all different requirements. And when you have a Class 8 auditor who has a very, very stuck picture on Class 8 auditing requirements and doesn't realize, hey, I'm 3 days into the communication course, you're going to be long on course. When you have a whole organization who doesn't have, you know what KRC is? Who doesn't know what KRC is? Knowledge, responsibility, and control. It's the second triangle on that Scientology symbol. Knowledge, responsibility, and control. If you don't have KRC for what it is that you're delivering, if you don't understand who you're delivering it to, if you don't understand what that person's needs are and coordinate what he needs with what you need, if you don't have that little bit of KRC, you won't make a very good instructor. And if you don't have a huge amount of affinity for whoever it is you're teaching, more affinity is needed in teaching initial communication course drills than anywhere else in Scientology, as far as I'm concerned. You have to have tremendous affinity for these eggheads. Well, that came out loud. But you do. You have to have your very, very best people supervising the communication course. You have to have tons of affinity for them. You have to coax them out of their shell and let them know it's okay to be in the room with somebody else and have that direct eye contact and that direct communication. You have to know that it's okay. It's perfectly okay. And when they come out of their shell for the first time, it's huge, huge wins. Who's had an experience like that on TRs where you just blew out of your skull? Yeah, and it's amazing, and it's really fun, and that's one of the things that Anita and I really specialize in is we take somebody who's completely wiped out on heroin, and we get them through the detox, and we get them through the withdrawals, and then we get them through the purif, and then they're on their TRs, and it's stunning. Within 2-3 days, these guys are like blown out of their skulls. They don't know what Scientology is. They don't know what Dianetics is. They just know they're stoned. and they know they want out of it, you know. And a few days later, they're just, and we've got a couple of them now that have gone through it. They want to be auditors. It's like, wow, how cool is that? It's phenomenal. So the basic reason students remain long on courses stems from inept criticism by instructors regarding what is required. And it's not that hard to figure out what's required. It really isn't. It's actually very simple. The whole thing is very simple. Learning how to audit is that simple. You can teach somebody how to audit 3 or 4 processes in less than 10 minutes. And they can go out and have fun with it and do a good job and help somebody key out a little bit of bank. You know, it's not hard. It's easy. It's not dangerous. What are they going to do? All I'm going to do is say, hey, well done. Thank you. That makes sense? So, and I'm not going to stand up here any longer, but I do want to read something, and it's a thing that was an excerpt from Professional Auditor Bulletin number 79. Ron wrote this in 10 April 1956. And he says, this is how it was written in the original tech volumes. Okay, so bear with me. He says, what do I think of auditors? This is from Ron. And then the next line is, PABs will be sent airmail for $10 a year extra. That's the commercial for this issue. They took it out of the new version. I think that was really stupid. Okay, so Ron says, every now and again somebody tries to get me to say what I think of auditors. And they want me to become hypercritical, I guess so as to match the asker's tone. Well, I better make a public utterance after all this time. So this is Ron talking in 56. He says, I think of auditors in a rather intense way. As I know more auditors than anybody else, and have a better basis for judgment on this subject, I can be, for once, an authority. He had a good sense of humor, I like it. My opinion of auditors in general is fairly well known to several people. I think of an auditor as a person with enough guts to do something about it. This quality is rare, and this quality is courageous in the extreme. And I don't know, for those of you who ever sat down and audited your first session, if you felt as freaking nervous as I did. I was like, am I going to permanently damage this guy? Am I going to make a fool of myself? Is he really going to answer the auditing question? Does this shit really work? That one was going on in my head. It wasn't a very good TR0. But I forced myself, and wow, that was cool. So he says this quality is rare, and this quality is courageous in the extreme. And those of you who are auditors, I know that you've gone through that, where you sort of stood back at a while and said, wow, that took guts. And just did it, you know, and do it. And then all of a sudden the winds start coming, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this isn't even hard anymore. It's like, wow, cool. Ron says, it is my opinion and knowledge that auditors are amongst the upper 10th of the upper 20th of intelligent human beings. So that's what Ron thinks of all you guys who are auditors. Their will to do, their motives, their ability to grasp and use are superior to that of any other profession. I'll attest to that, having been through some grueling internships. He says, I think of an auditor as having initiative. He is able to grasp or make a mock-up and put it into action. Auditors survive better than other people. Is this getting boring, or do you guys think this is cool?
Well, it's very cool.
Okay, good. If this world has any faintest chance of surviving, it will not be because I write, but because auditors can and will think and do. Definition of an auditor is one who listens and computes. They left that out of the current church auditing regimen. But you're actually supposed to think about what the hell you're doing. Sometimes even supposed to come up with your own damn conclusions. He goes on to say, I think our auditors came from beings lately arrived on Earth who, seeing where it was going, decided to band together to send it elsewhere. Well, I know Frankie, Mary, me, and Anita are all aliens. How about you guys? Yeah, John and Virginia, yeah. Trey, I'm not sure about you. Are you a resident here? Or?
Recent.
Recent, okay, good. I thought so. Aliens or not, Ron goes on to say, I consider all auditors my friends. I consider them that even when they squirrel. I believe that they have a right to express themselves and their own opinions. I would not for a moment hamper their right to think. I think of auditors and Scientologists as the free people. Just as they consider one another their people, so I consider them my people. I think their errors of the past, when they existed, came about because we are new and we are finding out, and I don't think any of their errors were intentional any more than mine were. I can understand their own reactions because I can understand the counter-effort given them by society, and thus I don't hold auditors guilty even when they fold up, but simply assume we'd better make a better effort into the society to overcome or bypass the counter-effort. I don't expect auditors or Scientologists to instantly agree with or seize upon whatever I say. I would be offended if they did and would feel they weren't a free people. People, since they are intelligent, I expect them to think over what is said. Try it. And if it's good for them, use it. That old auditors sooner or later came back to and used what I have discovered isn't any testimony to our relationship at all. It's only a testimony to my being right because I'm meant to be right in the first place. I sorrow when I see somebody accomplishing less than he should because he thinks I wouldn't approve of it. In organizations and out, I count upon initiative and good judgment. I'm going to give that one to you again. In organizations and out, I count upon good initiative and good judgment. Yeah. Right on. The most decent people I have ever known have been auditors. The best-hearted people I know are auditors. They are so decent and good-hearted, I have to work and argue with them to make enough to keep mock-ups rolling well, the thing they are now beginning to do. I am very proud of Scientologists. I think they're bright, shiny, beautiful people, and I'm glad every one of them decided to get born again this time. I think we're a fine crew. I know we can make it. And I know that if it's a better world in the future, it will be because Scientologists are what they are, not what I made them. Now, in case there are any further inquiries or doubts on the matter, I assure you I've spoken on the subject and that I've spoken from the bottom of a very experienced heart. Scientologists are the best people on each of the 5 continents, and that's all there is to it. Owen Hubbard.